The real pain economically has been the massive inflation coming from bloated overspending here in Washington, D.C. That is the real pain that the American people have felt the last 4 years.
Of 132 different countries and 600,000 different products, U.S. exporters pay higher tariffs on 2/3 of those products.
You see $4 trillion in investment already in President Trump's first 2 months. You see trading partners coming to the table wanting to renegotiate.
We have Liberation Day, as you know, on April 2nd.
Tariff Day, Liberation Day. Israel supposedly just dropped all their tariffs on American goods. And we hear there's some rumors about Canada wanting to drop theirs. China, of course, not dropping anything, and their barriers to entry. Why did Israel have tariffs on America to begin with? Don't we give Israel like a ton of money in military aid? Interesting questions. But when it really comes down to it, it's a great example. It's an example of how America has been taken for granted, and the working class have been taken for granted so much in this country, where the Gini coefficient has gone completely haywire. What's the Gini coefficient? That is the ratio of who has money of wealth at the top to wealth at the bottom. Right now, the wealth is totally consolidated at the top, and the wealth at the bottom has shrunk. The middle class has fallen out in this country. Working class has fallen out, and you go look at, so the idea of reconstructing and reconfiguring the global economy. This has been something, obviously, that we've been talking about here on the program for a while, and this is President Trump's grand strategy. The foreign affairs are totally tied into this. Winding down in the war in Ukraine is tied into this. Bringing Russia on board with rapprochement with China, vis-a-vis this new Sino-Soviet split, the Sino-Soviet 2.0 split that we've been talking about here. But when we're looking at tariffs, why do tariffs matter? Tariffs matter because the system of globalization was predicated on this idea that we could outsource and offshore all of our production, all of our manufacturing to places like China. What does this do? This builds up the People's Republic of China, the Chinese Communist Party. Go back and listen to the China Files. The very final episode is where we talked about the rise of globalization from the blood of the cobblestone streets, the cobblestones of Tiananmen Square, 1989, June 4th. And you can read Unhumans. In that book, we talk about this as well. The Chinese Communist Party was given an idea, was given a deal, essentially, from the first Bush administration, Scowcroft went over on the secret mission to say, all right, you're going to be the factory of the world, and we're going to provide you the IP and the foreign direct investment in order to become that factory. CCP said, no problem. We'll get the Lao Beijing to be these factory, work slaves. Then you go out. And what does it do? It hollows out the middle class in the United States, hollows out our towns, hollows out our cities, hollows out middle America. And yet people get addicted to the foreign baubles from China. That's what we talked about yesterday. So yeah, you can have your big screen TV and you can have your newest iPhone, newest Samsung, Yes, I know Samsungs are Korea, but this is my point. The point is you need to understand what's happening to the world around you. Okay? They want you locked in this like virtual chamber because they don't want you actually interacting with the real world. They don't care if it's flooded by fentanyl. They don't care if the opium dens of the modern age, of the 21st century, have become your own home. They don't care about the deaths of despair that are running roughshod across middle America. Why? Because they look at you as a consumer. They look at you as just another economic zone, another economic market for there to ply their goods. And China loves it because they're making money every time they sell something. The U.S. companies love it. Silicon Valley loves it because you're just a wage slave. You're just a wage slave that they're extracting money from and splitting it with the Chinese communist leaders, as well as the leaders of the Chamber of Commerce and the leaders of Silicon Valley. That's the system we currently live under. The other option that President Trump is offering is to say, guys, what if we actually make America wealthy again? So he says it all the time at the rallies. There was an entire day at the RNC in Milwaukee dedicated to this. But it's something, and we talked about this with Rich Barris the other day, where I want people to understand better And I want the message to get out there better. Yes, that does mean you might pay $1 or $2 extra for certain goods. But guess what? You're paying for that Made in America sticker on the bottom. You're paying for it to say Made in America again. And you're going to see that when things are made in America, guess what? The money stays here in our nation. The money stays in the community. We're going to invest in America by actually making the jobs good again, by making the manufacturing be strong again, by making all of this do well again. Is there going to be a little bit of pain? Is there going to be a little, look, are we going to have to, we're going to have to take our vitamins? Yeah, we are. We're going to have to take our vitamins. We're going to have to take our medicine because that's how it works. That's how you get off of an addiction, is through withdrawal. You have to go through that process. And that process is going to come. And you're going to see a lot of people that are totally beholden to this system, totally and completely beholden to this system say, whoa, wait a minute. You're hurting the Chamber of Commerce. Won't someone please think of the poor Chamber of Commerce? Won't someone please think of, the poor folks that are sitting there. And so I wanted to bring on someone who's actually written an entire book about this. His name is Spencer Morrison. He's the author of Reshore: How Tariffs Will Bring Our Jobs Home and Revive the American Dream. Spencer, do we have you?
Hi, Jack. You have me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hey, that's great. So we got about 2 minutes till the break. So tell us just a little bit about the book, and then we'll come back and get into it more.
I'll give you the 30-second pitch here. So this book, we couldn't have planned a better timing for it. But what this book is, it's all about how tariffs are going to reshore the factories from third world countries. And it ties great into Liberation Day because a big part of the book is describing all of the non-economic harms and consequences that have occurred due to offshoring. The biggest one being that we're totally dependent on China at this stage for critical components that impact our national security and our well-being, right? So we import our computer chips, we import steel, we import automobile parts, the whole shebang. So, Liberation Day couldn't come soon enough, Jack.
No, that's exactly right. And so when we look at this, I think people want to, throw around, and there's formulas, people could talk about it, but it really just comes down to this. The money stays in America. When we're not sending the money overseas, the money stays in America and it stays with the Americans. It really is as simple as that, isn't it?
That's exactly it. Since 1974, we've actually sent $25 trillion abroad. $25 trillion. All of that money should have been spent on American-made products. Imagine how rich this country would be if we had another $25 trillion in the bank.